There was once a young Buddhist monk who got super drunk, stuck a pot on his head, and danced around while the other monks cheered. Unfortunately, Buddha himself must have disapproved because the monk couldn't get the pot off his head. His fellow monks tried pulling, pushing, and praying it out, but sadly, once a pothead, always a pothead. Luckily, one monk had a bright idea. He took a knife and cut off the young guy's ears and nose so they could finally free the pot from his head. It's all fun and games until you can't smell anymore. This incident was recorded by an author who witnessed it, or said he did. It's pretty wild, I'm not sure I believe it, but it's a good introduction to medieval Japan's drinking culture, mostly the drinking culture of the upper class. Let's talk about how much the ruling elites of Japan drank sake, or rice wine, why drinking was a skill critical to your future, and why samurai drinking games were fun as hell. I bet you'll want to try at least one of these games. In ancient times, ordinary folks couldn't drink sake that much. Brewing it was long and expensive, and rice had better things to do, like getting eaten. Commoners saved the most brewing for holidays and festivals. They even took the leftover stuff after making sake, mixed it with water, and drank that, like college students adding water to their last bottle of shampoo. Even with the little alcohol farmers had, not enough to forget even one sorrow, let alone all of it, the government kept passing laws banning farmers from eating meat or drinking sake, especially after famines or droughts, worried that farmers would get wasted instead of feeding the country. Meanwhile, the elites were guzzling sake like a malnourished infant who just found a teat. Heian period nobles were known to have crazy drinking contests. One contest ended in disaster or massive success, depending on who you asked and how many cups they'd had. Retired Emperor Uda held a sake drinking contest for 8 players. I assume they were all refined and respected gentlemen of the imperial court. 8 men, 20 cups each. The host was serious about it too. He had each cup carefully marked with a line to make sure everyone got the same amount. By the 6th cup, things were already looking bad. People were getting woozy, words coming out like there was a traffic jam in their mouths. As the game went on, order broke down. Order was in the corner, passed out. One guy left the palace and face-planted outside the gate. Another threw up on the floor. Others were blabbering words only they understood. Just all giving Sei Shonagon enough material to complain about for another 100 pages. The contest ended after the 10th cup. The winner was one Fujiwara no Korehira, who somehow seemed somewhat sober after the whole thing. He won a fast horse. Now, drinking contests were one thing, but did they drink much outside of competitions? I know I have been, thanks to Tipsy, the sponsor for this video. Why, thank you, Emmy. That's nice of you. I've been doing it every day for 2 weeks. He's gotta give me an A on the test now. You're so bad. Why? I gave him like 15 apples. Oh, Mr. White hates apples. What? Wait, how'd you get an A? You didn't even study. I gave him something every day too. Something he really wants. Make someone happy for the holidays. Give them something perfect, unique, and drinkable. Do you like sitting back with a nice bottle? Want to get into sake? Or share them with your inebriated friends, but you don't know where to start? You can get something called the Sake Flight that makes it easy to try new things and figure out what you like. It comes in a box straight from Japan. You get 3 small sake bottles with very different flavors like fruity, smooth and dry, and cloudy. Each bottle comes with a description of exactly what kind of flavors you'll taste, what foods are delicious with it, and information about the brewery. Pop them open and drink with the 3 cute cups they give you. Click on the link in the description and use code Linfamy25SF to get 10% off and have fun with a friend figuring out your sake preferences, or gift it to someone who likes to drink, you know who. Tragically, Heian authors hated writing about food and drink, so we don't have a ton of information on their drinking habits, but we do have some, and we can read between the lines to figure out how much they drank. Sei Shonagon, a lady of the court and queen of snark, wrote that while she hated seeing men eat, seeing them drink was worse. She saw men poke fingers in their mouths, tremble, twist their faces, and wave their arms out of control. Even highborn and respected men acted like children. She also mentioned that she got embarrassed whenever a man she liked got drunk. Another noble lady, Murasaki Shikibu, said women panicked when men saw them drunk, so even women drank in public. In one story, an older imperial guardsman said he should probably retire because he wasn't sure he could handle much more drinking, meaning he always had to keep up with his peers drinking. It was a fictional story, but there was a stereotype that the Heian elites were heavy drinkers. Heian nobles also suffered from a disease the modern world is pretty familiar with, diabetes, partly from their drinking. Sake was served at every gathering. So, given all of that, it's pretty safe to say the Heian ruling class was full of alcoholics. But after the Heian period came the age of warriors, the medieval era. Samurai knew that getting drunk was death on the battlefield. You had to focus and be disciplined. But they said screw it, sake all day. Drinking was actually a requirement, not on the battlefield, but in life. Do it well and you could be a successful samurai. Do it poorly and you might just die. It was a time when the liver was an endangered species. Unlike the Heian ruling class, the medieval elites couldn't shut up about drinking, mostly about how awesome it was. Bless their fermented hearts, because we get to read what people actually did. One of the samurai's most important customs was the Lord's visit. Shoguns did this a lot. Some even did it weekly, picking one of their samurai and making a house call. For each visit, the vassal provided food and entertainment for his lord, and of course, alcohol. It was a requirement that you drank, thanks to a ritual called skisankon, or the 3-drink ceremony. It was one of the first things people did when the lord arrived. Usually, the lord, his vassal, the host, and the host's sons met in a small room. The right side was decorated with objects full of meaning, like a pheasant or a carp, which had the sacred meaning of, I spent a lot of money on you. On the left side were gifts for the lord, like quivers, bows, and armor. The host would place in the middle a tray of 3 stacked sake cups. The host's son poured sake onto the top cup. The lord drank, then passed it to the host, who also drank. They refilled the same cup and drank again, and again, for a total of 3 times, while eating snacks. But that's not all. You thought it was just gonna be 3 drinks, didn't you? Nope, that was just the first cup. They did the same thing for the next 2 cups, making it a total of 9 cups of sake. And this was before the banquet. The skisankon ritual was supposed to strengthen the sacred bond between the lord and his vassal by watering it with sake. Sake was used in religious ceremonies too, so it gave the ritual a sacred vibe. One interesting detail was what they did with the sake cups afterwards. The cups were usually unglazed ceramic, and after the ceremony, they smashed them and threw them away. Archaeologists have dug up medieval samurai homes and found tons of cups and other ceramics. Not an exaggeration, one dig site had 10 tons of smashed dishes and cups, a huge find for those archaeologists and a huge pain in the ass for their grad students who had to sort them. What a waste, you say, throwing all that stuff away after only one use as you toss your red solo cup in the trash. But it had meaning. After religious rituals, priests also smashed their cups and dishes that held food offerings. The custom probably added to that sacred vibe. Now, after the skisankon, you'll see why drinking was a skill that determined your future. After the drinking ceremony, they served more drinks at the banquet with the rest of the guests. Dozens of food dishes, dozens of rounds of sake. People tossed aside formalities like empty sake cups. One banquet for Shogun Ashikaga Yoshitane served 25 rounds of drinks and 119 different foods, a buffet with a death threat. Another banquet for Shogun Ashikaga Yoshinori served 27 rounds of drinks. People toasted each other, made bad poems, sang and hugged, threw up. It was fun times. At these banquets, people made friends and allies, strengthened bonds and oaths. Make the right toast, laugh with the right person, and you might gain an ally for the next betrayal. If you just brood in the corner with a cup of tea, thinking, how uncivilized are these people? You don't form those relationships and will likely find yourself alone with an uncultured knife in the back. Throwing up was actually a good thing, a manly thing. One regent, Nijo Mochimoto, had an amazing ability. He could throw up on command. Throwing up was part of the fun at parties, a good bonding experience as people helped their friends through the suffering or just laughed at them, depending on the friend. There was an understanding that the first person to throw up had to host the next party. I'm guessing if you were feeling queasy and didn't want to host, then you could ask that Mochimoto guy to throw up first. I'd imagine he was pretty popular. You might think twice before backstabbing him, unless you wanted to mop up the puke lagoon at the next gathering. Getting drunk was manly because holding your liquor was manly. Throwing up was considered manly because manly men were supposed to be rude and uncivilized. No wonder one historian called it the age of hangovers. Now let's talk about drinking games. They had a lot. They all sound pretty hard. Let me know which one you like best, so I can tell your family to have an intervention. It's not too late to turn your life around. The Winding Stream Party, played in the Heian period 2. This was the game where nobles met at a garden beside a stream to ignore responsibilities. Upstream, someone floated a sake cup in the water, and the players had to come up with a poem before the cup reached them. If they couldn't, drink. If they could also drink to celebrate. Some shrines in Japan still reenact this game. The tea ceremony. When you picture a tea ceremony, you'd probably think of a peaceful, reflective ritual. But there was an early version of the ceremony, basically a tea ceremony for bros. A person sipped some tea and guessed where it came from. Winner got a prize, loser got to drink a cup of sake. Gambling on this popular game was banned, making it extra fun when everyone did it. The Plum Blossom Challenge. Put 6 cups in front of each person in the shape of a plum blossom. The one to drink all 6 cups the fastest wins. There was a more alcoholic version played with 13 cups, in the shape of a wisteria blossom, downed as fast as possible. Very popular among grave diggers. A single dewdrop. You drink a cup of sake, but you have to leave one single drop in the cup. Then you flip the cup to let drip that single drop. Not 2, not 0, not 1 drop that evaporated. Exactly 1. Otherwise, you lose, and I assume you have to drink more. Another version called One Character had you drink just enough to be able to wet a fingertip and write the character Ichi, which is the number 1. Drinking 10 times. 10 people sit in a circle, 1 empty cup per person. The oldest person starts first. He fills the cup of the person next to him, then give that person the sake container. That second person does the same for the third, and so on. The fun part is you can't make a sound, not even a breath. You can't even mouth words. The breaker of silence has to drink all the filled cups. Good luck to you if you're a mouth breather. Drink a mountain peach. You put a Japanese mountain peach in the same cup. The peach is about an inch in diameter. Then you have to bite the sucker in half while drinking. People took their games seriously. They could last for hours. Sometimes they even paused to sleep and continued the next day. That's a lot of drinking. But did it affect their health? Luckily, these tough samurai warriors could hold their liquor, held it until they died. For example, the shogun Ashikaga Yoshikazu died at 17 from getting totally smashed all the time. Jesuit missionaries who visited Japan wrote that the Japanese ruling class drank so much at parties, they regularly got sick from it. It wasn't just samurai. The vows of Buddhist monks forbade them from drinking alcohol, but their hobbies clearly did not. Who do you think gave the samurai all that sake? Now, they weren't running around getting their ears cut off like that first guy. Every day wasn't medieval Japan's funniest home surgeries. But the monks got into the sake brewing business and were not strangers to getting absolutely sloshed. The history of sake is an interesting one. You don't expect monks to be making sake. You also wouldn't expect women to make sake because there were all kinds of restrictions against women stepping foot in the brewery. But one woman actually ran a sake empire. Click here to learn about how sake master Kyo destroyed her male competition. We have new members on Patreon and YouTube today. Lemon Just What? Raymond Berkvist, Dia Jackson, Tea Leaf, I Love You in Milk and Water, Rantsamaru, Hilarious Homebody, David Howell, Tay, Zakelatonic, and Natacha Jean-Pierre. Thanks so much, you guys. Alright, I love you, and spread the knowledge.